Rev up your engines. Now, people are always looking for pickup trucks. They're saying they cost too much. I can't find one. The Toyotas are too expensive. Well, back in the day, he paid about $21,000 for the thing. He went for just a plain classic rear-wheel drive. And he says, really, you don't need it here in Rhode Island. He works for the city. They plow the roads. It's not something that a lot of people think they need it, and they really don't need it. And of course, the plus is, since it's two-wheel drive and a four-cylinder engine, he can get in the mid and upper 20s on a highway. It's pretty good for a pickup truck of this size. He bought it new, and this is a new hood. Look how shiny it is. Now, you can't blame him. He didn't wreck it and have it replaced. These are those new aluminum hoods. The paint did not stick, and it came off, and he took it in years ago. They replaced the whole hood. They realized painting those aluminum hoods isn't that easy. But I do have to say, that was 3 years ago, and they did a good job at the dealership painting it because it still looks like new, unlike the original one. Now, it does burn oil. It's got 71,000 miles. About half a quart every 3,000 miles. If it was a Toyota, it'd be a big deal. People say, I don't want to burn any oil. But realize, one of the ways they sell these things are they cost a lot less than the Toyota Tacomas. And of course, a ton less than the Tundras, but that's a different type of truck with V8. You can't compare those, really. Now, today, if you look at a modern one, you compare a modern Colorado with the Tacoma, you'll see some places the supposed list price is actually $2,000 cheaper for the Tacoma than for the Colorado. But let me tell you something, that's fantasy land. Go to the dealers, see what you can get a Chevy for versus Toyota Tacoma for. You're gonna find a Tacoma is a lot more than what their basic list is. And these, you can still get a lot of them at the base price. Don't always be fooled by list prices. Go and see what's there and what it costs. Because from my experience lately, last couple of years, people buying Tacomas, one, they had to wait months, and two, they paid MSRP or above every time, and a lot of times they had to buy them with all the loaded options. They said, well, that's what we got. You want it? Buy it. So don't be fooled by just a list price. See what's actually out there. Now, this has lived in Rhode Island its whole life now. When he was in Colorado, he had a Ranger, and it's an interesting Colorado, too, because check it out. It's a 6-speed standard transmission. You can see it's got nice seats. They're pretty comfortable. Now the back seats, you can get people in there. No gigantic people back there, but you can fit people in there. They just can't have long legs. But they get a cute little window to look out of. And they do have airbags. And as you can hear, it's not a tin can. It's a pretty solid truck. As we go under, check it out. This may have lived in Rhode Island all this time, but man, he takes care of his vehicles. No rust on that frame whatsoever. And see how shiny it all is? And perhaps even more interesting is the tires. These are the original tires on them. All them miles. I had a guy bring me a Hyundai. A sucker had 20,000 miles and the tires wore out to nothing. They're obviously putting good tires on these. Now, some of it has to do with American legal system. When I was a kid in the 60s, they put crappy tires. They'd wear out in 14, 15,000 miles. But they also had a tendency of blowing up. Remember Ford with their exploders? Because the tires were blowing up. Ford blamed it on Firestone, and Firestone turned around, blamed it on them. It was a big battle back and forth. Well, now they use a lot better tires in the United States because they're worried about being sued. Some of the foreign ones, they got pretty junky tires on them. You might want to check out where are those tires made, what's the history of those tires, so you'll know whether you got good rubber on them or not. But the American cars, they usually have pretty good tires these days, so you don't have to think about it. He didn't bother towing anything. With a standard transmission, he could tow if he wanted to, but hey, that's not what this truck is for. Now, he didn't want it rusting, so he just left it without a liner. A lot of times under the liner, it will rust. They worry about that in Rhode Island. So all he does is take this off every once in a while, the mat, to dry it so the water doesn't pool up and rust. You can see the only thing that's really rusting are the tie-down hooks. They were just kind of cheaply made. You can see they're just rusting a little there. No biggie. And it's a real tailgate. It doesn't do 15,000 things like the ones that open and close and go sideways and talk to you. It's a tailgate. It does what it's supposed to do. Because I, like most intelligent people, don't like things like talking refrigerators. Customers tell me about a talking fridge. It broke after a year and a half. And it wasn't that it just stopped talking to them. It stopped cooling the freezer. So it's kind of a big deal, you know? Too much technology? This thing really doesn't have too much technology. A standard transmission. It does have electric windows, though. I think it'd be cooler if it had crank windows. But everybody wants electric windows, so. Now, it does have some technology. It does have variable valve timing, and it has direct fuel injection. That's how you can get 25, 26 miles a gallon on the highway. it's the most efficient that you can get out of an engine like this. He doesn't tow with it. It's his driving truck. So it's not like he needs a V8 engine or even a V6 engine. He had a V6 engine in the Ranger and he got 300,000 miles out of the thing. And it was a standard transmission too. But I kind of figured because I'd never seen a Ford automatic transmission in one of those go 300,000 miles. The standards, yes, but not the automatics. That's the thing. You're going to get a standard transmission. You're going to have reliability. You're never going to get stuck anywhere. You can play with the gears. And really, it's not like the old days when I was young where you had a 3 on the tree and you got a mechanical clutch around with 1 foot and you're jerking the 3 gears, turning the wheel without power steering. You really had to know how to drive cars in those days. These are not hard to drive. They got hydraulic clutches, smooth shifting down here, not on the steering column. Listen to it. Got a little bitty screen, but I mean, hey. It's a basic truck. Okay, 70-something thousand miles. Engine's not shaking, sounds pretty good. He does maintain it. He uses Mobil 1, he changes every 7,000 miles. And, as I told earlier, he hoses the bottom of his truck with the garden hose, which is very smart because his last truck, although it did last in 25 years, that Ford Ranger, it was rusting apart, even with his garden hose, but it lasted 25 years. So, it's not a bad lifespan, you know, you can't complain about that. Go with auto scan. Fast, because it's a newer vehicle. The automatic scan, it's going to go through all these systems. Now you can see it's in pretty good shape. It's only got 1 code, and that's for the radio. We'll see what it says for the radio here. What's wrong with the radio? Control motor, power circuit, low voltage. Lost communication with HVAC control module. It's funny because I was just talking to the owner about it. He says, oh, it's basic, I like basic, but little did he know that even the HVAC system goes through the radio. Everything goes through the radio. They got all kinds of computer options, but everything works fine, so he doesn't care. And at any rate, as long as we're here, we'll erase the stupid thing there. Then that'll go away. Start it up. And we'll look at the live data. It's all color-coded. No bad colors yet. Let's look at some interesting data here. Air fuel equivalency is 1.00. Can't argue that. And let's look at long-term fuel trim. Okay, it's 2. Mind you, it doesn't match the 0.00 I got in the car the other day, but it's adding 2% fuel, meaning it's running slightly lean. Now, I'll tell you something. This is one of these GDI systems. They're actually made to run lean. You're better off having it run a little lean. He didn't have any problems with it. He's getting good gas mileage. If he wanted, he could put some fuel injector cleaner, and it might get it closer to 0, but 2%, it's got 70,000 miles. It's not hurting anything. And what do we have? Okay, 0's down the line. The injectors have never been disabled because it doesn't misfire. So let's take it for a spin. Now it's a pickup truck, so we don't have to worry about this bump here if it keeps the water out in the neighbor's yard. Whee! It's a pickup truck. And it's a typical pickup truck. They don't handle like race cars, they handle like pickup trucks. You're nice and high up in the air. Got a nice ride to it. I'll roll the window up, quiet it down a little. Now we're gonna take it on a highway here. Once people get out of the way, nobody to the left of us, nobody to the right of us. Once it starts revving up, you wouldn't think it's a tiny little 4-cylinder engine. Doesn't make too much noise. I don't hear too much rattling. It's a pretty solid built truck. 70,000 miles. Got a lot out of his Ranger. He's probably gonna get a whole bunch out of this. He didn't want to bother with 4-wheel drive. Simple with a standard transmission that can basically run forever. A lot of people buy these because they don't want to spend the extra money that they have to spend for a Tacoma. And they can still last quite some time. You don't always think best is the absolute best if it costs a lot more. And if the second best can go hundreds of thousands of miles, you don't want to spend 50, 60 grand on, you might look at one of these. Just do a lot of research about which particular one you buy. What kind of engine do you want? What kind of transmission? Are you going to tow? Are you not going to tow? And of course, you look at some of their diesel ones, they get phenomenal gas mileage. The guy brought me one last year. He was getting 30-something miles a gallon with the diesel. But it was an Isuzu diesel, and I know they're going to be using their own diesels now, and I'd be kind of suspect about that. But if you're buying a used one with a Isuzu diesel engine in it, hey, it could be a great vehicle. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.